Setting it up.
Oh, it says it's streaming now live on Facebook. Hey,
All
everyone.
right. Excellent. Hello, good afternoon, everybody. It is Radlin Mendoza from Gardner and Mendoza, immigration attorney, and we've got some of our team members here. We're here to discuss the meeting, the virtual meeting that we had and sat in on with Field Office Director Frank Reffel at our Norfolk USCIS office off of Virginia Beach Boulevard. And we wanted to share live with you the important updates that he gave us last week, so you know what's going on. And if you have any questions, and I know we didn't really advertise this, we just thought, hey, let's just go live and be crazy and have some fun. And Sarah, Jackie, and Dom agreed to do it. So here we all are. And I'm going to have everyone introduce themselves just so you know who is talking. All right, go ahead. We'll start with you, Dom. Gentlemen first.
Cool. I'm Dominique Sampson. I'm a lawyer and I'm waiting to be sworn in into the District of Columbia.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, okay. I am Sarah Lawler and I'm an immigration attorney here at Gardner and Mendoza.
And I am Jacqueline Murray. I also work with Gardner and Mendoza, and you probably would encounter me for any client services that happen with the onboarding.
Awesome. Fantastic. So let me pull my notes up here because yes, I am using notes. Probably Jackie, Dom, and Sarah are not using notes because they're way smarter than I am. So let's see here. They're long, a lot of pages. First off, the director let us know that they shut down basically on March. I'm sorry, not shut down. That is incorrect. They closed their office primarily to the public, with the exception of a few cases, since March 23rd. And up to that point, they had about 15% of people working, working from home, and abruptly their staff had to go full-time teleworking. About 97 to 100% of their staff went to telework. So that happened as of March 23rd, 2020, as you all know. And the plan to reopen is happening right now. They expect to see, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, they expect to see their first interviews on June 15th, 2020. Up until that point, they are working on getting the office pretty much set. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. And safety is their number one priority, and they're concerned to protect the public as well as to protect their team. So with regard to their not seeing people in the office, they were able to complete 1,300 cases, which is quite a lot in that short amount of time. And as of the time of our meeting, as of June the 3rd, 1,107 completions. So wait a minute, did I say that correctly? So they were working on 1,300, I'm sorry. They're working on 1,300 cases and 1,107 of them were completed. So the non-completed cases were issued notice of intent to deny, request for evidence, appeals for N-400s. And so that's not that many as far as those types of RFEs and notice of intents to deny and terminations are concerned. So Sarah, do you want to talk a little bit about the types of cases that they processed during the shutdown?
Sure. I'll just kind of run briefly through the numbers they provided us. So they did 146 in 600 cases. So those are cases for people who are acquiring or deriving citizenship and getting certificates of citizenship, not naturalizing separately. They did do 214 naturalization cases. They did 166 751 cases. Those are petitions to remove conditions on your green card for those of you that were married for less than 2 years to your petitioning spouse when you got your green card. They did 317 adjustment of status cases. So that's the case to get your green card. They did 6 emergency departure stamps, 33 congressional inquiries, and 42 satisfactory departure cases.
Okay, awesome. So with the reopening happening. I think that a lot of our clients are wondering what that's going to look like and how safe it's going to be. And I talk with my neighbors and the team and everyone, and I ask them like, what is your level with regard to COVID-19? And I look at it in three different colors. Red being, I'm not going out, don't touch me, don't even call me probably, and I need to stay as safe as possible, for whatever the reasons are, whether they're immunocompromised or they have someone at home who is. So red is, I'm not going to go to that interview, And then we have yellow, and I'm probably in the yellow category, yellow to green, where, I am wearing a mask when I go out. And when things started opening up, I was one of the first people to go out and go have dinner. But during the beginning of this quarantine, I was definitely 100% on lockdown. But as things started to open up and loosen up, I also loosened up with regard to, restricting myself to the public. And then you've got green, and green is, our clients giving us hugs and kisses when they see us. And so I think everyone's going to fall somewhere in that, in that range. And, the reopening process, Sarah's going to talk a little bit about it as far as, okay, am I going to be okay as far as going into the immigration office? And I feel like they are taking kind of, these precautions in the yellow range. What do you think, Sarah, with regard to what Mr. Reffel told us?
Yeah, I agree. I think they're definitely trying to comply with kind of following what the state of Virginia is doing in terms of yes, we're still maintaining social distancing. Yes, we still have limits on the numbers of people who we can be around. Yes, we all still need to wear masks in public. Yes, we have to do the augmented cleaning throughout the day, but that on the other hand, they are willing to reopen and kind of resume everyday activities like interviews.
Right. Okay. So what's that going to look like for those with interviews coming up, and for the attorneys as well who are representing those who have interviews?
Definitely.
Like us.
So as you mentioned, their number one priority is safety. So that's going to be the main driver here. They will have lots of signs both on the floor and the walls telling you how to social distance, what are those exact rules, where you need to be standing. They've let us know that we will be moving in a counterclockwise motion throughout the entire building to avoid contaminating and touching each other. They are requiring...
Wait, I know this sounds crazy. But can you explain what counterclockwise means?
Counterclockwise means
so you had to think about it.
Continually moving to the left.
Right, we're moving to the left. When people are like, "Hey, pass the food counterclockwise," like, wait, okay, yeah, that's that way.
Yeah, I mean, we could just say to the left. It's probably easier than counterclockwise, but
to the left, I guess it's like follow the arrows, because everything's going to have an arrow.
Follow the arrows.
Right.
Follow the arrows, and please listen to what the officers and the security guards say. They are the people who are going to be giving out instructions, and you need to be following what they are saying while you're in the building. And to that end, to get into the building, you must have a mask on. If you don't have a mask, if you forgot your mask, you will not be allowed in. If you can't wear a mask, then you will need to reschedule your interview. And that goes for anybody who doesn't feel comfortable going to the office for any reason, because like you said, you're immunocompromised, someone at your house is, you don't have childcare.
Right. So, yes. And I want to add to that one of the questions that came up is like, what if someone comes to their interview and they don't have a mask, or what if they come to the interview, they've lost their mask on the way? And I know you guys are like, why would you lose your mask? Right? Have some backup masks in the car. I had a mask, and I went to go put the mask on, and one of the little elastic straps was broken. And so I just went in without the mask. But you're not going to be able to do that here. Am I right about that, Sarah?
Yeah, and I mean, you brought this up when we had the conference as well with them, and they kind of said, we really want you to have a mask. If something like that happens, we might work with you on a case-by-case basis and say, yes, we clear, like, you're trying to comply, you brought your mask. Unfortunately, it broke. So yeah, maybe we'll be able to give you another one. But for the most part, don't just show up without one.
Right. Do not show up without a mask. And if you guys don't know what we're talking about, like, what are they talking about? Masks, masks. Just call our office, okay? we'll, we'll, we'll get you a mask. You got to wear a mask into your interview. And the thing about this is this is a really small thing, but you're not going to be able to go buy a mask and come back to your interview. They're going to ask you to reschedule that. And what that means for those who are in yellow to green range of COVID-19 is that your case is going to get delayed yet again. I mean, if you were scheduled for an interview coming up pre-COVID-19 and they finally reschedule it and they're now open, and then you come with a child or a mask, a child and no mask, and Sarah will get to that in a second, you're going to have to reschedule it. So it's important to follow these instructions.
Yeah, so then just a couple other like health safety things that you need to be mindful of, and then we'll talk about who actually gets to come into the building. Is that you will be required to use hand sanitizer prior to coming in. They are allowed to ask you health questions. Do you have a cough? Have you been around anybody with coronavirus in the past 14 days? Have you been quarantined in the last 14 days? Have you been traveling in the last 14 days? And then there will be barriers throughout the office to prevent you guys from touching the officers and vice versa. And then they also want you to bring your own black or blue pen because of that, so that you can, again, only use your own pen, don't contaminate, don't touch another pen, don't touch somebody else's pen that has coronavirus, etc. And yeah, those are mainly the limits on what's going to happen as far as the actual health concerns. However, they are also restricting who can come in because we want to have as many actual applicants in the building and not extra people. I can't talk today. They have, and that's what I say in Spanish most Fridays too. So yeah, they have a 100% capacity, and that includes all of their staff and everybody who's in the office. So they will not let any children, if you have a child, don't bring them. You need to find childcare, reschedule. No family or moral support. Sorry, we know, like, we love to see all of our friends and family in important momentous events. Not this one. And then I don't know if Radlin, you want to talk about the attorney and interpreter appearances?
Yeah, sure. So this is something that I think is it's important, but it's interesting also. It's an interesting rule, and we'll see how it develops, because all of this is going to be continuously studied and updated with regard to how it's working. I'm presuming they're going to look at percentage of maybe if someone gets sick on staff and whether they're going to change that. Frank talked about breath loads and which leads into how many people can actually be in the immigration officer's office doing this interview. So, and again, it depends on your comfort level with regard to how close you want to be sitting to your attorney, your legal representative. And so let's talk about naturalizations first. So in the N400, N400 interview, of course, there's going to be the officer. The officer is always going to be there. Then there's going to be the applicant, that's you, right, applying for citizenship and going in for your interview. And then your attorney is the third person. And from what I understood, there can only be a maximum of 3 people in the room. And they are highly preferring that the attorney appear telephonically. So that the attorney be at his or her home or office and getting a phone call from the immigration officer and being a part of the interview in that manner. So that would fulfill the purpose of, if an applicant is not comfortable with the attorney sitting next to them, then the telephone is an option. Now, where it gets a little interesting to me is in a marriage-based case or in a 751 interview where a couple is appearing and maybe the applicant is getting the conditions on her green card removed, and it's a 751 interview. And so the marriage-based interview, there's going to be 2 people, and now I'm not going to say usually, but many times in the 751 interview, there are also 2 people, the spouses. Okay, so in those cases, from what we've all understood about that, is that the attorney cannot be there because it's a maximum capacity of 3 people in the immigration office. So we, your attorneys, are going to have to appear telephonically. And correct me if I'm wrong, guys, they are taking a look at video, a video conference. That's not happening anytime soon. It may, I mean, maybe if these telephonic phone conferences don't work, or not effective, or we get dropped and there are too many problems, and of course the attorneys and the clients are going to complain, and maybe we'll see some changes there. But this hopefully is temporary.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it did make me stop for a second when he said that. It's like, wait a minute, we're not going to be able to sit next to our client. That's not going to work. But for now, it's going to have to work. With regard to the telephonic hearing, Sarah, and just appearing with our clients, have you ever had any, I mean, just as far as when you're needed at an interview? So there are many people at the immigration office who do not have an attorney present at an interview, but it certainly can come in handy. As Sarah can tell you, we've had to whip out documents, and of course, if it's telephonic, we're not going to be able to do that. But just the fact that we're there and we're hearing what is happening, and if there is a request for evidence or a notice of intent to deny or terminate, then we know what was said. We've taken notes as to what happened, and it comes in really handy.
Definitely. I think it's also important, something we see a lot, like the questions on the I-45, that's your application to adjust status, are really confusing for a lot of people. So sometimes, even though we prepare you, you're going in and you're saying, oh yeah, I definitely have served in a prison or a jail or prison camp. And they're like, well, that's not what you mean. You mean that you spent a couple hours in jail because you got a ticket. That's very different from working at a prison. And so we're able to hear that and say, hold on, can you ask that again? I don't think our client understood. And that kind of gets you out of a sticky situation where you might be saying yes to things that you really don't want to be saying yes to, and that aren't applicable to you, just because you're a little bit confused. And that's why it's nice to have an attorney there for us to kind of step in and say, hold on a second, let's rephrase that, let's clarify and make sure that we're not admitting things that you haven't done.
Absolutely. And Dom, can you talk a little bit about our process with regard to, and Jackie, you can jump in as well, about preparing our clients for the I-45 interview. So we really go through that 485 3 times with our clients. Go ahead, Jackie.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's definitely, and I think it could ring true even with the clients that we talk to on a daily basis. I mean, a lot of you guys are feeling nervous. You're not knowing what to expect in an interview. I mean, a normal interview makes people nervous. So I can't even imagine, having to go to one of these by yourself, especially now with not a lot of people being able to come and support you. So getting your groove with your attorney is super important. And that totally happens during the interview preparation that we do, so that when you do go to the interview on your own, if you have to, and the attorney is on the phone, you already know what you've talked about, what you've rehearsed, what you've really looked through. So you know that's somebody that you can rely on. And I know that Dom can speak to this. I mean, you and I talk to these clients often about what questions are on the application, even before we prep them. But I mean, I know you have tips and stuff, so.
And really, when a client first comes into our office and retains us, we give them a checklist and a questionnaire that is part of the packet that we give them. And on the questionnaire, there are several yes or no questions, especially that pertain to the 485, so that the client can either go through them, or we can go through them, go through it with them. And we also, as the case progresses along towards filing, we double check with our clients to make sure that they understand what those questions are, and if they need to like go to another consultation with us to go over those yes or no questions before filing. We can also do that so that they understand what those questions are. And there's a lot of questions
Yeah.
on the 485, a lot of yes or no
Oh,
questions.
the new 485, which is not so new anymore.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
I mean, by the time we finish with our interview prep, our clients are so done with those questions.
But it does,
But-
I can't imagine, I'm sure it feels so supportive, the fact that they don't have to feel the burden of having to memorize every single one of those questions, but they have this team or their attorney going through every single one, no matter how repetitive it looks, and double checking. So, I mean, it's really priceless if you think about it.
Yeah,
and
were you going to say something, Tom?
yeah, and the interview preparation really is there for the client's benefit, to get the butterflies out and
Mhm.
ask questions that they may have, especially kind of like as a trial basis before the actual interview, just for them to just kind of get all the butterflies out, all the stress out, so that they're not so stressed when they're at the actual interview.
Well, they're still pretty stressed, I will say, but when, and I know all three of you guys have experienced this, when you've done interview preps, or when you've sat in on interview preparation, the clients are nervous for our interview prep. They are nervous because we tell them, look, this is what the interview is going to be like. And I can tell them, okay, this is what the interview is going to be like, but just relax. It's me, right? Have you guys noticed that, how the clients are actually
Definitely.
really nervous for our interview prep?
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah, especially
after,
if it's like second language. I mean, if English is not your first language, they're feeling even more nervous, I think, because they're
Right.
not sure if they're going to be understanding everything correctly. So,
right, that's a good point. Well, we can, Sarah, were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to say that's a good way to segue into the new interpreter requirements as well.
Great minds think alike. Look at
There
this.
you go.
I was
I had a
just going to
feeling.
use the segue word too. Is segue a lawyer word, or what is that? Like, I'm pretty sure I did not know that word pre.
Expand on.
Yeah. That is what I think about.
All right. So go ahead, Sarah. Sarah,
Yeah.
you guys know that Sarah speaks Spanish and English, but she's not going to be able to translate for you.
Yeah.
She's your attorney.
No attorney
It's not
translation.
allowed.
No, and neither you cannot translate. So like your spouse can't translate on your behalf, and your attorney can't translate on your behalf. So if you are in a scenario where you require an interpreter, you are more than welcome to have one. In the 485 interviews, in the naturalization interviews, you must show that you have a medical reason for why you need that interpreter, or you meet certain residency requirements. So generally we're using them for green card interviews, but in this case, they will no longer allow you to bring your interpreter with you to the office. Same as where the attorney is, you must have them appear telephonically. So they don't have to be anywhere near the building. They just have to be ready to receive that phone call and translate. And that's going to be a little bit interesting to see how they do that in practice, because generally the interpreters do have to sign a form saying they'll interpret faithfully, and that they aren't going to just make up answers for you. So obviously, as we experience that, we'll let you know more details on how that happens in practice. But yes, no interpreters in the building. And clearly that was really exciting, because now Radlin is just silent.
What am I doing right now?
I was like,
wait, stop. Hold on a second. Wait, this is good times. Something's happening. Is that me? Okay.
Yeah.
I pushed a
Lots
button.
of changes.
Wait, hold on a second. Are you guys hearing that?
We're good.
Are you guys
No, it
hearing the
still says-
double?
no, that's you.
It's me.
All
My
right.
face is really red right now. Okay. I'm going to, I'm hearing double right now.
The feedback, yeah, that's awful. It's very distracting.
I'm hearing. Okay. Let me try to figure this out real quick.
All right.
Nobody's hearing double except me. It's okay. What the heck did I do? right. Hold on, guys. Okay, Sarah, while I'm trying to figure this out, why don't you move on with the rest of the outline?
Sure. Let me just finish up with some new stuff about the interviews. We're going to have a limited number of interviews at this point, so we're not going to be doing full capacity, which probably for most of you guys is going to be really exciting because we all know how many of us, well, maybe you guys don't know because maybe you haven't been to our office before, but we three have definitely sat for like 2 hours waiting for an interview. So hopefully with our limited capacity, we will not be experiencing that. They're only going to be doing 28 interviews a day. So there'll be 4 interviewing officers and they're each going to have 7 interviews a day to start off. And again, like Radlin said, they're going to evaluate that as time moves forward, see if they're able to add more interviews and still reach the capacity and safety limits. But that will be the plan. They are also going to be focusing on naturalization. They have a ton of cases that they still need to process for naturalization and so that people, and basically, to be honest, I mean, they said this is a election year. So we want to get as many people naturalized as possible before November so that they can all vote in the November elections. So they will definitely be focusing on naturalization interviews, and then we'll add on the adjustment of status, the 751s as necessary. And they are waiving some interview requirements. So if you're an employment-based employment-based green card applicant, you may have your interview waived. You may also have it waived if you're an I-751 removal of conditions applicant. That's case-by-case basis, and they're gonna see how that's progressed as well. Just FYI for you. And I don't know if Radlin is still having the double feedback because I'm sure she would love to talk about oath ceremonies.
I am totally having double feedback. I have no idea when you asked that question.
Just now.
Can you guys can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you great.
You know, I really feel for people who hear voices in their heads right now.
Oh.
Wow. Okay. What am I talking about right now?
Oath ceremonies.
Okay. Yeah. Hold on, guys. Hold on.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, I'll wait, and I'll also talk about fingerprinting real quick while we wait for your double feedback problem to dissipate. So also, even though our field office is opening and we will be interviewing starting June 15th again, the Biometrics Center, so that's the place where you get your fingerprints taken as part of your cases, they are not open yet. They don't have a set date to reopen, probably late June or early July. And that's just because they haven't quite figured out how to capture fingerprints in a safe manner that's not going to present like coronavirus risks. So if you've ever gotten fingerprinted before by USCIS or any government agency, they're really working hard on trying to recapture and use your old prints. If for some reason they can't do that, they will schedule you for a biometrics interview. If they are able to recapture your old prints, you'll get a notice in the mail saying that they were able to do that and you won't have a biometrics appointment. But for those of you who are still waiting on those appointments, it's going to be a little bit longer because that portion of our office is not quite open yet. Problem solved?
Ooh, yeah. I have a new torture method.
Oh.
And it's to have immigration folks talk about immigration on top of talking about immigration. So you can hear it all crazy. All right. So sorry about that, guys. That was nuts. And I was the one who was like, yes, let's do Facebook Live. Okay. So there has been limited with regard to oath ceremonies. If you're in the military, you may have already gotten notification to go in and swear in at the Norfolk USCIS office. And you also, if you're not in the military, you still may have gotten one. But basically they're doing military naturalization oath swearing ins first. And they're then working on swearing in oath ceremonies for the older cases. So it's first in, first out. So if you filed multiple months ago and your oath ceremony was scheduled and then it was canceled, then you're probably going to be one of the first people to get sworn in this new system. And basically the Norfolk office is doing all of them, and they're no longer going to be done at the courthouse, the federal courthouse in in Norfolk. And is this also covering, this is also covering Richmond jurisdiction, right? Am I correct? It's got to be.
Anybody in the
So-
anybody in the Eastern jurisdiction. So yeah.
Okay, Eastern jurisdiction. All right.
Eastern district, excuse me. Yeah.
Eastern District, all right. So they have jurisdiction, Norfolk has jurisdiction over any case approved prior to October 1st of 2020. So it is, again, it is limited. And if it's approved and it's pending the ceremony up to October 1st, you can be naturalized in Norfolk. That's good news because it's well, I don't know if it's going to be faster, right? Because of the process. I mean, they're trying to do it. They're doing it every single day, small batch, multiple times a day in the Norfolk office starting next week. Is that correct? No, this week. I guess that would be this week.
Yeah.
And it's going to be 6 people at a time. And it's being done right now on the first floor in the Application Support Center. For those of you who've been there, it's where you get your biometrics done. So it's, you walk in, it's to the left on the first floor, and they're projecting 216 per week. So that's a lot of processing. So the great news is, I know you guys just want to get sworn in and get the piece of paper and go and get your passport, even the US passport, even though you probably can't travel anywhere right now. And those are, getting a US passport is also backlogged. The bad news is that there is not going to be any type of formal ceremony for you, which is kind of a shame, because it is a big deal. It is a big deal to finally swear in to become a US citizen after your long immigration journey. But you guys are going to have to celebrate at home or at a local restaurant, because those are open as well. So did I miss anything there?
No, I don't think so. I think the only thing to add is a large number of cases that they already have on queue. So like, yes, we are talking about, they mentioned, it's until October 1st, 2020, but they still have a backlog of 1,300 cases they need to naturalize first. So if your case gets approved tomorrow, don't expect your ceremony next week.
Yes, absolutely. The 1,300 to 1,400 backlog of cases, that is correct. Very important to note there, which I was really surprised. Were you guys surprised to hear that number? I was.
I was too.
I mean, imagine massive cities and what their backlog is. So 1,300 to 1,400 just here in the Hampton Roads area, and Richmond as well. So, okay, let's see, where are we? You know, this is what I get for trying to fool around, see if anybody's looking, asking questions. You know, I'm just not as techy as I think I am. All right, let's see here.
And if you guys have any questions about any of the information we're talking about, just shoot us a message through Facebook Messenger. You can always call our office, and you can end up talking to me, or we can set up a consultation if you're not already a client, but we'd be happy to talk about your case individually.
Okay, awesome. And Jackie, it looks like you're going to finish up here. Am I right with regard to this with the congressional liaison? So you're going to take it home for us. This very exciting Zoom stream. Oh wait, no.
Common processing times.
We didn't do that.
Trying to shut Dom out. We're trying to shut Dom out of the processing time. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay, we'll do congressional. We will do congressional liaison first, and then Dom can finish with.
Dom's gonna take it home.
Some numbers. Numbers are exciting. Yeah. These numbers are exciting. That sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Well, yeah, processing times are totally important, because this step for congressional service usually happens after you review what your processing times are. I used to be a congressional liaison for almost a decade, and one of the things we constantly told clients or constituents was that make sure that you've exhausted all of your resources before you go and do a congressional inquiry, and that includes checking processing times. So let's say if you have an 8-month processing time at the top end, then you wait until you've passed 8 months before you actually do a congressional inquiry, unless obviously if there's an emergency of some sort. But most people don't know that your taxpayer dollars actually pay for free service from your local Congress member or your senator. What they have is a team of caseworkers that either they're all cross-trained or they have specialists that work on specifically immigration. So we've worked with Congresswoman Loria, Senator Kane's office to help some of our clients get answers, especially when their case feels stuck. You'll probably chat with me for a little bit on the phone, and then I'll send you some instructions on how to do that. Not much has changed, but they do go through a process that not many are familiar with. One thing that you should know is that they're going to be needing the information similar that you've already gotten from your attorney, but your attorney is not going to be the person primarily speaking with the congressional liaison. You should be the one contacting them directly. Now, we'll be happy to walk you through exactly how to do that, who to talk to, and what form to fill out, because you are going to need almost like a permission slip type form. They call it a privacy waiver. And they either will submit it directly to the congressional liaison or through their portal. Now, this is not going to be the fix all, but we do notice that because of the congressional influence that they do have, USCIS has specific liaisons that work with those offices to get you the answers that you need in a far faster time than sometimes you can do on your own, either waiting on hold forever or even we can do. So if you have any questions about that, we'd be happy to answer it or walk you through what that looks like if you've been waiting for a long time. But yeah, just know that option is always available. It's free. So yeah.
What if you don't pay taxes?
You can still do a congressional inquiry because it's likely that you have a relative.
Someone does.
Yeah.
Kind of like a credit union type situation.
Yeah. And they're super friendly. They're there to help. It's non-political. So yeah, don't be worried about that.
Look at how friendly Jackie is.
That's right. So yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Jackie. And then just for clarification, and you're right, we should have done Dom first and then you last. Sorry about that. because as Jackie said, this is kind of the last thing that one would do. Well, the last thing that we do would be filing a lawsuit, right? But prior to that, we asked for you to go and seek congressional liaison assistance. And during our meeting on June the 4th, we had the congressional liaison. Is it the congressional liaison?
Yeah, she's like kind of like the head person overseeing everything.
Right, exactly. And she went through this process with us, which Jackie already knows. So if you are one of our clients and this happens to you, and it does happen sometimes, it absolutely does. We walk you through that process, and we really have someone who is extremely knowledgeable about that process. And may I say, insider information. Am I allowed to say that?
Do it.
I did. All right. So, right. When you have someone who's worked somewhere for a really long time, then obviously they know the ins and outs. I mean, it's insider information, it's experience, it's tenure, it's mastery. I'll say that. All right. Dom, what's going on?
Hey, who's ready for numbers?
Yeah, I love numbers. Numbers are sexy.
Yeah, so I'll be going
really
over the estimated processing times for Norfolk and Washington field offices as it pertains to the I-485, the adjustment of status cases, and the N-400, the naturalization cases. So
Dom, before you run into those numbers, with I-45s, what are the most common cases that we're talking about here?
Those are for family-based, like marriage adjustment, and also for employment-based cases as well.
Okay, great.
So for the Norfolk field office for the I-45, the range is right now between 7.5 to 21 months for the I-45 cases. And just to break it down a little bit more, for employment-based cases, that's taking 8 to 27.5 months to process. And for family-based cases, that's 7 to 18.5 months. So half of those cases do get completed within the lower time period, which is 7 to 8 months. 93% of the cases that are being processed do get completed at the higher end of the range, which is 18.5 for family-based and 27.5 for the employment-based. And there's about 7% of the cases that are outliers, which is farther along, way outside the range that's are being completed for all those cases for the 485. Now for the N400, it's taking 7.5 to 11 months to complete for Norfolk. So again, half of the cases get completed in 7.5 months, and then the higher end, 11 months, 93% of the cases get done. For Washington, it's a little bit longer for the Washington Field Office for the 485. That's taking 12 to 23.5 months. Generally for the adjustment of status cases for the employment-based, it's taking 8.5 to 27.5 months. And family-based, it's taking 12 to 21.5 months to get completed. So there's a longer wait time for Washington Field Office for adjustment of status cases. And they also have a slightly longer waiting period to process for the naturalization cases for the Washington Field Office. That is taking 9 to 21 months to process.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for the numbers update. I think
Super
that
excited.
yeah, but I think just kind of what sticks out in my mind, if I were somebody applying for the green card right now, let's just say based on marriage, you said 18.5 months, right?
Mhm.
The long end. I mean, I would kind of be freaking out a little bit, right? I'd be thinking that is a really mind-blowing long time. One of my friends just did it, got it done in 6 months, but those 6-month days are over right now. And just because I'm so old, right, as compared to all the people on the tiles here in the Zoom call, when I started practicing immigration law in 1999, the cases were taking 18 months, every single one of them. So back then I took every single case that walked in the door. And I didn't necessarily, want to be hanging out with some of the people for 18 whole months, right? But we were, because that's how long these cases were taking. Now I want to hang out with all of you guys out there for 18.5 months, I'm sure. But my point is that we went from a period of really, really long processing times. Then probably in the past 10 years, it was, 10 years minus 3.5. Then we went to very short, remember guys, 4 months to 6 months of marriage-based case processing. Like sometimes we get a NAT case in 3 months done. And then now we're kind of back. We're not at a super long period. I mean, I will say, and I think that everybody here will back me up, that we're not seeing 93% of our cases getting adjudicated in the 18.5 range. We're seeing, right?
Definitely not.
Definitely
and I think you have to consider that also. I mean, no offense to you self-filers, but you have to consider if you have errors on your application, if you're forgetting documents, that's all delaying your processing times. These are general processing times for everybody who's applying to our Norfolk Field Office. The better your application is, the more complete it is, the more correct supporting documents you have, that's the less amount of processing time you're going to have to go through because you did it right the first time. Yeah,
that's a great point. But when I see those numbers, and when I'm in a consultation and I show the numbers to the clients, the potential clients, they're a little bit freaked out by that high end. But we just don't. We're just not seeing that at all. We're not seeing 18.5 months of processing. If we are seeing it, and when we do see it, there's a background check that's pending. There's something wrong with the case. And not wrong like we did something wrong. There's something that they are investigating, perhaps with the applicant's background, criminal background stuff, things that we may or may not have known about, and we would know that this is the reason that it's taking so long. But it's just good to know that, in our office, I don't know about in the rest of the country, and for the self-filers, we are seeing all of our processing, the majority of our processing in that lower range.
Yeah.
It's not because we're awesome. Well, actually it is. Anyway, so there's so much for us to talk about, guys. I mean, I love having you on these tiles and just we're all on the spot and we're dealing with like the tech issues, or I am. But there's just so much for us to talk about and share with the community. And, you know, we're going to come back and talk about the 944, and we still have to post our video, Dom, that we did when it comes out at bronx.net. But there's just so many things that are happening right now that are important to have representation and to make sure that you're going down the right path, because the immigration journey is a long one, especially now. And as we were talking in our meeting this morning, there's just so many different nuances that it's tough to stay on top of if you don't have the proper representation. Anyhow, I think that we don't have any questions. I'm not even going to look push any more buttons. I don't think we have any more questions. Do you guys have anything else to add to this? Any parting thoughts?
No, just, hey guys, seriously, it's a long time to wait, but if you need someone to support you through that, that's what we're here for. So please don't even think about, should I or shouldn't I reach out? Just reach out. Even if you have a simple question, we'd be happy to field it with you. And like, we do know some of the trends, even with our own cases. I mean, we have some knowledge that we would love to share. So don't hesitate to reach out.
All right. And also thanks for that, Jackie. You're absolutely right. Do not hesitate to reach out. And if there's anything that you or, you know, some of your friends in your community, if you're in a particular community, and there's a topic that you want to hear about and you want us to talk about, or you want us to address, we're coming on a couple of times a week. Sarah has done this whole thing in Spanish that was published on Saturday. And check that video out. Because again, and share it with your Spanish speaking friends and people who might know that want that information, because it's not like it's just readily available out there. I mean, you're not going to find this information in your, newspaper, or nobody reads the newspaper anymore. But so yes, please let us know if there's anything else that you would like to talk about. And if you want to give us a call, if you have any questions, our office number is 757-464-9224. You can shoot us an email at info@gmlaw.net. And all of this is on our Facebook page. A lot of people reach out to us through Messenger, and we answer Messenger questions within minutes, if not seconds, depending on what we're doing. So we're all in the Messenger box, and we're all answering and fielding questions and trying to help out as much as we can, because I know that there's a lot of uncertainty out there. So, all right, guys, thank you guys so much. Thank you to Dominique and Sarah and Jackie. You guys are amazing. This is an amazing team that we have here, and I can take no credit for it other than bringing them on board to Gardner Mendoza. So double thumbs up, guys. Thank you so much. Y'all are awesome. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.